I wish I could kick this junk out of my. It was encouraging the other night from both sides of the court. I liked our aggressiveness early on the defensive end. Obviously, things get out of proportion a little bit when the ball doesn't go in. We saw that both ways last week, and yet I was very proud of our. We were assignment sound. I was really proud of our physicality, and other than a few missed blockouts in the second half and opportunities to crack some people, I thought it was very solid. I thought offensively it was pretty matter of fact. I thought we got the ball where we needed to. I liked our balance, both shooting threes and getting the ball in the paint. And then the second chance points were terrific. And then our initial thrust was very good. Trent's doing a great job of pitching ahead. He's doing a great job of pushing the ball, putting a lot of pressure on defenses, and that was that was important. It was an important piece of that game. Wisconsin's playing as well as anybody in the country right now. Obviously going on the road to win at Thompson Bowling against Tennessee, and then obviously at Ohio State, getting one of the 3 road wins in conference play. And it's a veteran team. You start looking at Trice and Rivers and Brad Davison and all the guys that are impacting them. They're all playing great, and they struggled a little bit early, I think, maybe with identity and their roles changing a little bit different now that Happ and Iverson, some of those guys were gone, but they've settled in quite nicely. They got 5 guys in double figures and shooting the ball exceptionally well, and that's something we've got to try to be very cognizant of heading into this one.
Wisconsin is described as very physical. That seems like a lot of Big Ten teams. Are they especially physical?
Yeah, I don't think it's any different. I think it's what they do. I think they're really good at walling you up. I think they walk under you with their hands up and use their chest exceptionally well. Brad Davison is an extremely physical guard. The one thing that I think they're doing a little bit different this year is they're posting a lot more. Davison, Kobe King, those guys, Aleem Ford, those guys are becoming their post players rather than an Ethan Happ or an Iverson. So it's a little non-conventional in that your guard's going to have to play post defense. But they're physical, and as a lot of Big Ten teams are.
Should Trice versus Trent be one of the marquee matchups to watch this season?
I think it's Trice is shooting it awfully well. I think he's a guy that you've got to keep in front of him. You've got to make his attempts at the 3 challenged, and it was a good matchup last year, and it should be all that again this year.
When they've got guards that post, what then becomes necessary for your guards that maybe aren't as used to be in that spot?
Yeah, it's something we obviously spent some time on in practice, and it's not just a one-on-one matchup on the block. There's some ball pressure responsibilities and accountability that have to happen. There's it's something you got to do your work early and get to a spot before them. But it's a challenge, and you've got to make them shoot hard shots and try to knock them off their spots a little bit.
Is this a team that you can maybe run against? I know a lot of times teams dictate the tempo of how you play, but is this a team that you can get out and run against?
Well, I think many have tried. I think it's a team that we had some success last year, with tempo, and I think the one thing that you've got to understand is sometimes you may have, like last year, I think with 5 or 6 minutes to go in the first half, we had 20 points. Our tempo was terrific. It's the thrust. You can't just get walking it up. I think they're 350th in the country out of 353 in pace of play. So how they're going to play. It's just a matter of you can't try to force that issue too much and challenge bad shots. But you've got to have an initial thrust that's that can maybe knock them on their heels a little bit.
League play, you're number 1 in the Big Ten defensive efficiency. How would you judge where you're at, maybe based on your expectations and just the whole process of your defense?
Well, I think we're continuing to grow. I think that's the one thing about this league is every night there's a new challenge, and you go from 7'3" and 280 to and those two post players at Purdue now to pick and pop guys that can really shoot it. So it's a constant challenge. It's constant information for our players to do something a little bit different. And but we've been very pleased. I think we've forced Purdue into the shots that we felt like we wanted them to take. But it's a collective group of guys, and the connectivity's been much better because you're only as strong as your weakest link on the defensive end. Our chemistry and our communications become much better.
You've said why you do it, right? Are you happy when you're getting out of that dribble weave you do in the middle of the game? And it seems like last week, especially at Michigan State, you were getting downhill shots, opportunities at the basket.
And it's something that sometimes I just feel like when we get a little bit stagnant, that gets the ball moving. It's not just the downhill thrust that we want. It's just the getting from side to side, getting the ball moved and moving the defense and changing tags once we get to the roll and the ball screen action. So it's been good for us. It's something that I felt like in the Michigan State game we should have ran maybe a few more possessions, and yet it's a constant. Always in the back of our mind and something that we'll continue to go to.
Is that something you've done at previous stops
Yeah.
before you got here?
Yeah.
Just to kind of get stuff
Yeah,
moving?
and anytime depending on how the defense plays, it's something we look for. And again, when the ball starts sticking in guys' hands, it's something I look to try to exploit with that offense.
You're judging team progress, maybe not just win-loss. What do you think is the next step for this team?
Yeah, win it on the road. Win it on the road, and it's proven very hard to do in this league. But it's an attitude, it's a toughness, it's a growing step. It's not easy. It sounds really easy. Hey, just go win on the road, but it's overcoming adversity. It's handling challenges, and that's where we've got to continue to get better and fight at. And we had a chance. We gave ourselves a chance at Maryland, and I'm expecting that same kind of effort every single night we step on the court in an opponent's venue.
Apart from being named Brad, does Davidson remind you of your own college
he's
game?
A way better player. He's a tough soccer boy. He's relentless on the defensive end. You look at his scoring average; it's down this year. I think it speaks to the balance of their team. But when it's winning time, he's going to be somewhere in that mix at both ends of the court, and he's may lead the country in charges and charges taken. He may lead the country in post swipes where he digs down and steals the ball from post guys, and yet you leave him open and he's going to make the three. So very, very good player.
You talked about challenges of the road. Is there something in particular about Wisconsin that makes it hard to win up there versus the other environments in the Big Ten?
Oh, I don't think so. I think it's been the guys that have been on the court. They've had some awfully good teams. Bo had a great Final Four run, and with really, really good players, and Greg has had very good teams. And you're talking about Ethan Happ being there for forever and being one of the great players in that program's history, and this team's no different. And, Reavers is playing into that role. So they've had very, very good players, and they've had a very established culture, and makes it challenging. And you put 19,000, which will be there tomorrow. You put that in that venue, and it's a difficult place to play.
So Dre, 6 assists, hit a 3 against Purdue. Was that good to see after maybe he'd been a little lost in the shuffle the last few games?
Yeah, I mean it's Dre's a really, really good player, and the one thing that his unselfishness was very, very evident. I mean, we had 14 assists, he had 6 of them, and then he's been shooting the cover off the basketball in practice, and he's been getting a lot of reps and a lot of shots, and knows when he can start making those, he becomes a really challenging guard because of his ability to drive and get to the front of the rim. And you start adding the pass with the shot and the drive, and you've got a pretty complete player.
Trent talked about Coach Gentry particularly and defensive mindset going into the Purdue game. Would you talk a little bit about how the coaching staff has changed with Jamal at coordinator, what Steven brings as a defensive prep guy?
Well, I think it's, every game, I think all of our staff does a great job. And I think it's, Jamal and Jeff get out in front. They're working on Rutgers. And, they've already done the job on Wisconsin, and they presented that to the scout coach and myself. And it's nice to have guys that are out in front ahead and have seen everything. As soon as the game's over, I get notes on the next opponent on my phone from each of those guys, and then I get an outlay of what the scouting report's going to look like and what games to watch and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty definitive plan. Then Coach Gentry, has his ideas on Purdue, and we took those and put them into play. And as we do Wisconsin, there's certain things. Chen's got this one, and it's just a matter of implementing those ideas and getting guys to understand them every day in practice.
Tevis struggled for the most part.
We're dancing here.
Tevis struggled for the most part in his minutes of late. What's kind of been the message to him recently?
Oh, you got to earn them. I mean, who's he going to play in front of? I mean, you got to go earn those things. And there's no, there's no charities. Charity minutes aren't given. They're earned. And Kip was tremendous the other night in a long playing period where Georgie had some foul trouble, and that's we believe in Tev and what he's capable of doing, but he was out, and you got to work your way back into that, and you got to go compete for those minutes in practice every day.
You want me to go now?
Yeah.
Okay. Whether it's Allen, Trent, minded defense, how much do you feel like your team has found its role in those guys, and the individual guys playing to their role and what that means for your team?
Yeah, it's helped a lot. I think we searched for that early. I think everybody was trying to be a scorer, or everybody was trying to be this or that, and we had a emphasis trying to get the ball inside a little bit and establish our interior play. And now guys on the bench, guys starting, as you guys know, I don't give two rips about who starts. It's about having productivity throughout a 40-minute game, and to do that, you got to have really good guys coming off your bench. And Al's role has been huge. Dre's role, he excels at it. And then now we've got Kipper playing at a very efficient level off the bench. So you start looking, and it becomes a nice mix of what you go to when you're when you do make substitutions, and you feel more confident subbing quicker sometimes to get to those guys, and that's less minutes and harder efforts, and that's what we're ultimately trying to get to.
Like the improvement of Kofi and his assertiveness?
Yeah, there's no doubt. It's can't be game by game. It's got to be every day. And he's 13, 14 games into his college career, and that's one of the things that we have to make sure that we stay dialed in with him about is there's no lulls in the Big Ten. There's no days off, and we need that. We need that physicality. We need that guy who occupies bodies, and it doesn't matter whether he scores 12 or whether he scores 20. It's the physicality with which he plays that we need. Thanks guys.